Welcome to the Global Connection, a Tel Aviv University podcast. Journey with us as we discover how TAU's academic community and friends are engaging with and helping to shape this ever-changing world. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Global Connection. Today, I have with me here in the studio renowned diplomat, entrepreneur, and academic Dr. Ronen Hoffman, who is the head of a new international program at Tel Aviv University called Exploration, Leadership, and Innovation, or ELI for short. The program proposes to turn the idea of a gap year on its head and offers a college preparatory program for Jewish youth from around the world, anchored in academic excellence, leadership training, and immersive learning and exploration, and which centers engagement with Judaism, Jewish culture, and the startup nation. Welcome, Ronen. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you here. Now, I know before this new beginning for you, you've had quite the illustrious career. So with that in mind, I wanted to ask you a few questions about that before we jump into the program. So even to take you back a little bit, from my understanding, when you began your career, it was as a press and information officer for the Israeli consulate, and then you worked as an assistant for late Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin. So can you tell me a little bit about, diplomacy, politics? Was this always something that you really wanted to be involved in?
Yeah, I guess I was always fascinated by communities and by relations between groups, between communities, between nations, international relations, political science. And so I was a student here at Tel Aviv University.
Okay.
And I enjoyed my studies here so much. And I was really inspired by my lecturers, my teachers here, to try to get involved in the relations between Israel and other nations or other countries. So when I've ended my studies, I was looking to get involved in a diplomacy, diplomatic relations, work for an embassy, for a consulate. And the circumstances brought me to Atlanta, Georgia, and that's how I started.
Okay. I have many more questions about that and about your diplomacy career working with other nations. I do have to ask what it was like working under Rabin, though, before we continue to other questions.
This is a good question. This is something that it's really difficult to describe in words. Because when you work with a leader, and Yitzhak Rabin was a great leader, there are so many things that inspire you and that you learn from the leader and the person who you work with. And it takes time, decades took me to realize what I've learned from Yitzhak Rabin. Now when I look back, I'm really thinking and I believe that many of the decisions and choices that I've made in my life in terms of the desire to teach leadership, the desire to even get involved in politics and in international relations, as I mentioned. I was really inspired by Rabin, and it brought me to understand how people can get inspired by leaders, not necessarily political leaders, but leaders of all kinds.
Okay. Now, a good part of your career has been spent specifically on the relationship between Syria and Israel. Early on, you worked with the Prime Minister's office on negotiations. From there, you ended up doing a PhD on the subject. So can you tell me, what was it about this particular relationship that inspired you to spend so much time thinking about it critically and working on the issue?
Right. I think that my interest has been around conflict management and conflict resolution. The Israeli-Syrian conflict was just a case study, which I happened to be, and I was fortunate enough to be involved in negotiations. By the way, under the former president of Tel Aviv University and our ambassador to the U.S., Professor Itamar Rabinovich, who was my mentor. But my interest is about conflict resolution and about, I would say, the cultural and the psychological aspects of conflict and crisis and conflict resolution, how you can resolve conflict by addressing the psychological and cultural aspects, not just the political and the security aspects.
Okay. Well, and that brings me towards the end of your PhD, if I'm getting the timeline correctly. You co-founded the International Institute for Counterterrorism, which is a globally renowned institute. It's focused on what you're talking about, from my understanding, conflict resolution. So can you tell me how that came about then?
Yes, when I participated in the peace talks in Washington, D.C., under the Professor Rabinovich and Prime Minister Rabin, I got to know the think tanks, policy-oriented think tanks, as a phenomena of a combination of critical thinking and creative thinking of experts and practitioners of how to improve policy. And I thought at that time that it would be great to bring such a concept to Israel and create think tanks here in Israel. So I got together with my good friend Boaz Ganor, who is an expert on counterterrorism, and together we founded the Institute for Counterterrorism as a policy-oriented think tank based on applied research, but really advising policymakers and decision makers throughout the world how to cope with, again, the psychological aspects of terrorism and other aspects as well. So I think that this world of think tanks, of policy-oriented sessions, groups, roundtables, conferences, workshops, to combine academic thinking, critical thinking, and practical thinking and implementation is really something that I'm interested in.
Okay. Well, it reminds me of that idea that we really can't work in a vacuum, right? And so there's the work that we want to do, but then there's the tools and the training and the education that makes it that much more potent in a way, that sort of wanting to realize a vision. So for you, a lot of your work has been bound up with that. But I noticed another sort of strain in your career and what you've done. A lot of it has been focused on youth development as well. So that brings me to Camp Kimama. From my understanding, it's the largest summer camp in Israel. There are also sites around the world. So, on one end, we have think tanks and treaty negotiations and peace negotiations. And then on the other hand, we have a summer camp. So tell me, there's got to be a good story behind that. How did that come about?
Yeah, so when I was a student here, I was sent by the Jewish agency to be a counselor at the summer camp, the Jewish summer camp in Atlanta, of course.
Okay.
So, it was when I went to camp in the States, it was already after I've been for many years in the Israeli Scouts, in the Israeli Army. And it was a good surprise, but I was surprised to realize that a camp experience, a summer camp experience, is so powerful, maybe even more powerful than anything else I've experienced until then. And I remember that moment when I thought to myself, well, it's very nice to take a piece of Israel in my backpack, go to the diaspora and give them a taste of Israel. But why not to bring young people here to the real place, to Israel, to experience Israel by having a summer camp, a real Israeli summer camp, international summer camp, but here in Israel. So that's how the idea came to my mind. And I founded the first, Jewish Israeli international summer camp. And I think I'm not part of Kimama anymore, but it's my baby. I founded it, and it makes me so proud to see that so many young people, campers and camp staff come from all over the world to Israel. And not only coming to Israel, but also spending the summer with Israeli peers, which really, there's no, more powerful living bridge that I can think of. I mean, this is the most powerful thing, to bridge and to bond between young people from the Jewish communities and Israel.
If you were to look back on your career, would you say there's a moment or initiative that you're most proud of?
Wow, that is a hard one. I mean, I think it's a combination of several. And you said that summer camps is one thing or one world, and then politics is another. But actually, they are not that far from each other. So for me, I think the combination of working with people, with communities, whether it is summer camp or other camps like Camp David for negotiations, the camp experience, the community experience, the leadership, and the thinking of how to really try to help the world to become a little bit better with people, together with people. I think that combination really is the peak of what I'm trying to do throughout my career.
Okay. Now, you've been a member of the Knesset, too. So how does that shift in terms of that thinking of bringing people together, of community action? Does it shift your approach a bit when you're actually in politics as well?
Yes, it did, in a way that, again, as I said, there are so many levels and so many places or fields to be a member of a community and a leader. Not necessarily political leaders or political leadership. And in the Knesset, you see people who got elected, and you see the beauty of democracy. And some of the people come to the Knesset with experience in political science and in other, but some of the people don't necessarily have the experience before they get elected, and they're still authentic representatives of their communities, which is, again, part of the beauty of democracy. So in the Knesset, you get to work with people from different fields, different areas, all elected by the public. And it's very dynamic, but also, you get to fight for your values and for your political platform and for your political party. And so there are clashes of ideas, clashes of views. There's a positive side when it's being done in a constructive way, but it's a negative side when people treat each other as rivals and enemies sometimes. So you get, again, a combination of the beauty of democracy, but also some challenges that we as a society, not only here in Israel, but in the world, challenges that we need to cope with.
Now, admittedly, what I know you for as a Canadian is that you were most recently the Israel's ambassador to Canada. And in January, from my understanding, you ended up stepping down because you felt like the integrity of the position was being compromised by some of the actions that the government was taking. So I have to ask, that must have been a difficult decision. Yeah, can you sort of just walk me through what you were thinking at the time?
Yes, first of all, I really enjoyed being the ambassador. Most of the skills that I've had an opportunity to develop throughout my career, I could really use them as an ambassador, focusing not only on diplomatic and political affairs, but also on innovation and entrepreneurship and cooperation of research and development between Israel and Canada. I really enjoyed it. But at some point, when there was a change in the government and change in policy here in Israel, I really felt that my integrity requires me to step down, to resign, because I was a political appointee. You have ambassadors that are career diplomats, in most of the cases, but there are 11 or 12 political appointees that the government appoints as head of missions around the world. And I was one of those 11 political appointees. So after the elections, and when there was such a dramatic change, not only in the government, but also in a policy, I felt that my integrity requires me to leave and to let the new government to appoint someone who may feel more comfortable to represent the government and the values of the government, the policy of the government. And I did not. So I didn't think, as much as I enjoyed, I didn't think I should really, hold on to the position. Okay. And that's why I resigned.
Okay. Well, I have to say for me personally, integrity is one of the biggest qualities I look for in a leader. And admittedly, I would say that you have a number of qualities related to leadership, which actually brings me back to this Exploration, Leadership, and Innovation program. So I know teaching leadership is a large component of what you and the members running the program will be doing. So can you talk about that a little bit? How do you even teach leadership?
Yeah, so first of all, I always believed that the seeds of leadership are planted at a young age. So I believe that if you support the next generation, the young generation, in teaching leadership skills, it's the best investment you can make, for humanity.
Okay.
And by the way, that's why I founded Kem Kimama, and I really joined teaching. And yes, leadership is a field, is an academic field, and it's a practical, not only field, but a world that, people actually lead other people or lead communities and lead nations or corporates or anything, any group of people. With the time, there have been some models and some theoretical thinking and critical thinking of leaderships, different kind of leaderships, different skills of leadership. And so, yes, there is an academic field called leadership, divided to subfields. And this is something you can teach in class, but not only in class. It has to be experiential. It has to include some practical experience. You can do it through workshops, through meetings with leaders and with entrepreneurs. And at the same time, some of the skills require critical thinking, problem solving, conflict resolution, negotiations, and these things could be thought as academic fields as well as experiential activities. And this unique program that we offer is exactly that. It's a combination between world-class academic training and extracurricular activities and mentorship opportunities for the participants with Israeli leaders and Israeli key figures. And that combination, I think, is very unique and very promising.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit more about, so ELI, again for short, Exploration, Leadership, and Innovation. So tell me just generally about the program. Like what can students expect if they enroll? What does it look like?
First of all, it's for me and I think for my partners that together designed the program here at Tel Aviv University. It's a great bridge for young people from around the world to come to Israel and be with Israelis and experience Israel at Tel Aviv University. And this is so important these days. Talking about community, talking about common values, talking about relations and commitment. So I think that it's not only about inviting and bringing young people, students from all over the world to Israel, but it's about really help them to prepare themselves for the future, for university life and college life, and also for their role in their own communities. And so the program offers a very unique set of tools or skills, and again, very high academic level, but also lots of activities outside the campus. Some of the activities would be here at Tel Aviv University, getting experienced and working together with some of the most powerful academic institutions within the university, dealing with cybersecurity, with artificial intelligence, and with the best of science and human thoughts here at the university, but at the same time visiting sites around Israel, meeting with Israeli leaders, and being with Israeli peers. So this is something which is very unique, and it's about leadership, but it's also about Jewish peoplehood, and it combines dealing with the collective identity of us as a people, getting experience of in campus, out of campus, a lot of experiential learning. There's some learning in the classroom, but also a lot of outside the classroom as well.
Okay. From my understanding, it taps in a little bit into Startup Nation. Even Tel Aviv University, I know it was voted number 2 in the world as a university for producing founders of unicorn companies, so companies worth $1 billion or more. So there's a pretty impressive track record there, and this program will also be engaging with sort of the entrepreneurship and innovation community at TAU and in Israel more widely. Is that correct? Or
Yes, exactly. So again, we go back to leadership, and you see Tel Aviv University's role as a leader in producing some of the best solutions to global challenges, which is connected to the role of Israel, as a leader in the world of being spearhead of innovation for good, helping the entire world to cope with some challenges by entrepreneurship, by innovation, by really inventing the future solutions to present and future challenges. And of course, so this program, LI program, would do exactly that, would get the participants to learn and to get experience and to get a taste of what entrepreneurial leadership is all about.
Okay. Now, the other part, and you have been talking about this a bit, but I understand it is also a college preparatory program, and so there are 4 credit courses that the students will be taking. So can you talk about that aspect of it? The program is sort of a bridge between high school and getting ready for university and what comes beyond university.
Yes, exactly. It's a college preparatory program, and the students will choose 4 credit classes from different areas. Israel and the Middle East, environment and sustainability, entrepreneurship and innovation, Jewish peoplehood, and the best of science and human thoughts. All these fields will be offered to the students, and yes, they will choose 4 credit classes across from these fields.
Okay. And when does the program begin? It's a brand new program, so cohort number 1, when are they showing up?
So we're looking at August 24.
Okay.
And the program would be for either a year, an academic year, or 6 months. Participants would be able to choose. So yeah, we'll begin at the end of this coming summer.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I wish you much luck with it. It's a really exciting new program, and
Very exciting.
I'm excited to see where it goes.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.